I never expected to spend my 68th birthday in the back of an ambulance with a bruised shoulder and a split lip. But there I was, holding an ice pack to my face while texting my lawyer 3 words. They finally did it. Let me start from the beginning. My name is William Morrison. Most people call me Bill. I'm 68 years old, retired civil engineer. Spent 34 years with the city of Calgary, designing bridges and overpasses. My wife Margaret passed away 3 years ago from a stroke. Quick, unexpected, devastating. Since then, I've been living alone in our house in Mount Royal, a craftsman bungalow we bought back in 1988 for $180,000. The real estate agent told me last spring it's worth close to $1.9 million now. The neighborhood changed. Young professionals everywhere. The kind of people who do hot yoga and order groceries on their phones. I have 2 children. My daughter Karen is 38, works in marketing for an oil and gas company, married to a man named Derek who sells commercial real estate. They have 2 kids, Sophie and James, 10 and 7. They live in a big house in Aspen Woods with a 3-car garage and a home theater they never use. My son Michael is 35, single, works as a software developer in Toronto. Quiet kid. We talk maybe once a month. He's not part of this story. This story is about Karen and Derek and what they tried to do to me on Thanksgiving weekend. It started 4 months before the dinner. I was having coffee with my neighbor, Arthur Fenton. Arthur is 73, retired provincial court judge, sharp as a tack. We meet every Tuesday morning at the Starbucks on 17th Avenue. Talk about hockey, politics, whatever's in the news. That particular Tuesday, Arthur looked troubled. "Bill," he said, stirring his coffee slowly, "I need to ask you something personal. Has Karen been talking to you about your finances lately?" I paused. She had, actually, started about 2 months prior. Casual questions at first. "How are your investments doing, Dad? Have you thought about what happens if you get sick? Do you have all your paperwork in order?" I told Arthur about the conversations. He nodded slowly. "And has she mentioned power of attorney? She brought it up last week. Said it would be easier for everyone if she had legal authority to help me manage things." "Just in case." Arthur set down his coffee. "Bill, I spent 22 years on the bench. I've seen hundreds of cases involving elderly parents and adult children. What you're describing is a pattern, a very specific pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "Financial exploitation. It starts with concern, questions about your affairs. Then suggestions about legal documents. Power of attorney, joint accounts, adding their name to your property title. They frame it as protection. But the goal is control." I felt a chill despite the warm coffee in my hands. Karen wouldn't do that. She's my daughter. Arthur looked at me with those judge eyes, the ones that had seen every kind of human behavior for decades. "I'm not saying she would. I'm saying be careful. Get a cognitive assessment done. Update your will with an independent lawyer. Document everything. If I'm wrong, you've lost nothing. If I'm right, you'll be protected." I didn't want to believe him. But Arthur had no reason to lie to me, and those questions from Karen had been getting more frequent, more insistent. So I made some calls. First, I booked an appointment with a geriatric specialist at the Foothills Medical Center. Full cognitive assessment. Memory tests, reasoning tests, the whole battery. I passed everything. The doctor told me I was sharper than most 50-year-olds she tested. She gave me a detailed report with her signature and credentials, documented proof that I was mentally competent. Second, I called Douglas Chen, an estate lawyer downtown, not the one Karen knew about, a different firm. I told Douglas everything Arthur had said. He wasn't surprised. "Mr. Morrison," he said, "I handle 3 or 4 cases like this every month. Adult children trying to gain control of their parents' assets. Sometimes it's greed. Sometimes it's financial desperation disguised as concern. Either way, we need to protect you." Over the next 2 weeks, Douglas helped me restructure everything. New will with specific language preventing any challenges based on claims of mental incapacity. A living trust for my grandchildren, Sophie and James, managed by an independent trustee. Money for their education, accessible when they turn 25, separate from anything Karen could touch. Third, And this was Arthur's suggestion. I installed security cameras. 4 of them. Living room, dining room, kitchen, front hallway. High definition. Excellent audio. The system saved everything to a cloud server that Karen didn't know existed. I hoped I would never need any of it. I was wrong. Thanksgiving fell on the second Monday of October. Karen called me the week before to confirm she was hosting dinner at her place. Fine with me. Less cooking. But then she called again on Friday. Actually, Dad, she said, her voice too bright, too cheerful. Derek and I were thinking, why don't we do Thanksgiving at your place this year? The kids love your house. And it would be nice to have everyone together where Mom used to cook. Playing the Margaret card. Clever. I agreed because saying no would have raised suspicions. I spent Saturday and Sunday preparing. Turkey, stuffing, Margaret's cranberry sauce recipe, roasted vegetables, pumpkin pie from the Italian bakery she loved. I set the dining room table with our wedding china. The house smelled like sage and butter. They arrived at 4 o'clock on Monday. Derek's black BMW pulled into my driveway. I watched from the kitchen window as they unloaded the kids. Karen was carrying a bottle of wine, expensive looking. She only brings expensive things when she wants something. Dad! Sophie ran up the front steps and hugged me. James followed, more reserved but still sweet. Happy Thanksgiving, Grandpa. Happy Thanksgiving, kids. Go wash your hands. Turkey's almost ready. Karen kissed my cheek. You look good, Dad. House looks great. Thanks, sweetheart. Derek shook my hand. Firm grip, direct eye contact. The salesman handshake. Bill, good to see you. Thanks for having us. Of course. Come in, come in. We settled in the living room while the turkey finished resting. The kids sprawled on the floor, playing with their tablets. Derek poured himself a generous glass of the wine they'd brought. Didn't offer me any. Karen sat on the edge of the armchair, that posture I'd learned to recognize, leaning forward, eager, ready to pitch. So, Dad, Karen started, Derek and I have been doing a lot of thinking. Here we go. About what, honey? About you. Your situation. Living alone in this big house. I managed just fine. Same answer I always gave. Derek jumped in. Bill, with all due respect, you're almost 70. This house is what, 3,000 square feet? 4 bedrooms? That's a lot for one person to maintain. I've been maintaining it for 36 years. That's exactly the point. Karen's voice was gentle, concerned. You've been doing everything yourself for so long. The yard work, the snow removal, the repairs. It's too much, Dad. I hire a kid to do the yard and snow, have for years. Derek waved his hand dismissively. That's not sustainable. What happens when you have a fall? A medical emergency? What if you have a stroke like Mom did, and no one's there? Then I'll deal with it when it happens. Karen exchanged a look with Derek. The kind of look that said, we rehearsed this, follow my lead. Dad, we've been talking to some people, professionals, about options. What kind of options? Derek leaned forward. There's a very nice assisted living community in Canmore. Beautiful facility. Mountain views. Full medical staff on site. Activities. Social events. You wouldn't be alone anymore. I don't want to live in Canmore. I've lived in Calgary my entire adult life. Karen reached over and touched my knee. It's just something to consider, Dad. You'd be closer to nature. Fresh air. And Derek and I could visit on weekends. Visit. From Calgary to Canmore. An hour drive they'd make maybe twice a year. I appreciate the thought, but I'm happy where I am. The timer went off in the kitchen. Saved by the bell. Again. Let me get the turkey, I said. I carved the bird at the counter, taking slow breaths. Stay calm, Bill. This is what Arthur predicted. This is what you prepared for. Dinner started pleasant enough. Sophie talked about her soccer team. James showed me something on his tablet about dinosaurs. Karen complimented the stuffing. Derek had 3 glasses of wine in quick succession. Then, over pumpkin pie, Karen brought up the paperwork. Dad, she said, pulling a manila folder from her purse. I had our lawyer draw up some documents, just to make things easier. What kind of documents? Power of attorney, medical and financial. Derek said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. Standard stuff. Every family should have it in place. I looked at the folder. Didn't touch it. I already have power of attorney documents. Set them up years ago with my own lawyer. Karen's smile flickered. Those are outdated, Dad. We should update them. Make sure everything's current. They're current. I reviewed them last month. Silence. Derek tried again. Bill, the thing is, these documents Karen has, they give her the authority to help manage your finances if something happens. Pay your bills, deal with the bank, handle investments. It would take a lot of pressure off you. I don't feel any pressure. Karen's voice went up an octave. Dad, please, just sign them. It's for your own protection. I pushed the folder back toward her. No. Derek's face darkened. He'd finished most of the wine by himself. His cheeks were flushed. Bill, he said, his voice harder now. Let's be honest here. You're 68 years old. You're living alone in a house worth almost $2 million. You've got investments, pension, savings. That's a lot of assets for someone in your situation. My situation. You're vulnerable, Karen added quickly. Not mentally. We're not saying that. But physically, logistically. What if someone takes advantage of you? What if you make bad decisions? I've made fine decisions my whole life. Derek stood up. He was a big man, 6'2", played hockey in university. Still had the build. This is ridiculous, he said. We're trying to help you, old man, and you're sitting here acting like we're the enemy. I stayed seated, kept my voice calm. I said no, Derek. That's my answer. No isn't good enough. The kids looked up from their tablets, scared. Karen jumped in. Derek, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. He jabbed a finger at me. We've been planning this for months. The facility in Canmore has a spot opening up in January. Non-refundable deposit. We already paid it. There it was. The truth. You paid a deposit on an assisted living facility without asking me. Karen's face went pale. Dad, we were going to talk to you about it properly, but you were going to put me in a home and sell my house. It's not like that. Derek stepped closer. Actually, Bill, it's exactly like that. This house is too much for you. You need to be somewhere safe, somewhere people can monitor you. And frankly, the equity in this property would be much better used helping your family than sitting here empty. Helping your family. Not helping me, helping them. I stood up. Slowly. I think you should leave. Derek laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. Leave? We're not leaving until you sign those papers. I'm not signing anything. He grabbed my arm. Hard. Fingers digging into my bicep. Listen here, you stubborn old fool. You're going to cooperate. Or... I pulled away. His grip tightened. I heard Karen yelling at him to stop. The kids were crying. Then Derek shoved me. I'm 68 years old. He's 42 and 220 pounds. I went down hard, hit the edge of the dining room chair on the way, felt something crack against my shoulder. My lips split on the hardwood floor. For a moment, everyone froze. Karen screamed, Derek, what did you do? Derek was breathing hard. He looked at his hands like he couldn't believe what had just happened. I got up slowly. Blood dripped from my lip onto Margaret's good tablecloth. Kids, I said quietly, go to the living room. Now. They ran. I walked to the front closet, got my coat. Where are you going? Karen was crying now. Hospital. Dad, let me drive you. No. You're going to take your children and your husband and leave my house. Right now. Derek stepped forward. Bill, look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I opened the front door. Get out. They left. I watched Derek's BMW back out of the driveway. Saw Karen's face in the passenger window. Tear-streaked. Terrified. Then I called 911. The ambulance came. Paramedics checked my shoulder. Wasn't dislocated, but badly bruised. My lip needed 3 stitches. They wanted to take me to Foothills for observation. I agreed. In the ambulance, I texted Douglas Chen. They finally did it. He responded in 30 seconds. Coming to Foothills now. Don't talk to anyone until I get there. He arrived before the doctor finished with my stitches. Douglas Chen, 54 years old, always wore these perfectly tailored suits even on holidays. He looked at my face and shook his head. Tell me everything. I did. Every word I could remember. Douglas recorded it on his phone. The cameras? He asked. Everything's on the cloud. All 4 angles. Good. This is assault, causing bodily harm. Given your age and the family relationship, there are elder abuse considerations under Alberta law. We need to involve the police. I know. Are you sure, Mr. Morrison? Once we start this, there's no going back. Your relationship with Karen is already over. She brought her husband into my home to intimidate me into signing over my financial life. She paid a deposit to put me in a home without my consent. She's been planning to take my house and my money for months. Douglas nodded slowly. I'll call the Calgary Police Service. 2 officers arrived within the hour. A constable named Patterson and a sergeant named Blackwood. Professional, thorough. They took my statement, photographed my injuries, collected my torn shirt as evidence. Did you feel your life was in danger? Sergeant Blackwood asked. I felt my autonomy was in danger. My right to make my own decisions. To live my own life. She nodded. Mr. Morrison, under Alberta's Protection for Persons in Care Act and our elder abuse statutes, what you're describing is very serious. The physical assault is one element, but the coercion, the financial pressure, the attempt to remove you from your home against your will, these are patterns we take extremely seriously. I want to press charges. Against your son-in-law? Against both of them. Douglas showed them the video footage on his tablet. 4 angles, crystal clear. Derek grabbing my arm. Derek shoving me. Karen standing there, not stopping him. Folder of power of attorney documents, clearly visible on the table. Sergeant Blackwood watched it twice. This is compelling evidence, she said. We'll be making arrests tonight. They did. Derek was charged with assault, causing bodily harm. Karen was charged as an accessory. Both were released on conditions. No contact with me. Surrender of passports. Mandatory court appearance. The next 3 months were a hurricane of legal proceedings. Derek's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. My lawyer refused anything less than a conviction. The video evidence was damning. No jury in Alberta would side with a man who shoved his 68-year-old father-in-law to the ground over financial documents. Derek pleaded guilty. Got 18 months probation, mandatory anger management, 200 hours community service, and a restraining order requiring him to stay at least 100 meters from me and my property. Karen's case was more complicated. She hadn't physically touched me, but the prosecution argued she had orchestrated the confrontation, knew about Derek's intentions, and failed to intervene. After 3 hearings, she accepted a conditional discharge with 12 months probation. No criminal record if she stayed clean. The elder abuse angle made local news. Calgary Herald ran a story about seniors being pressured by family members into signing over assets. They didn't use my name, but Douglas told me the police department cited my case in a training seminar about recognizing financial exploitation. The financial investigation took longer. When detectives started digging, they found Karen had been accessing my banking information for over a year. She'd gotten my login credentials somehow, probably from an old email, and had been monitoring my accounts, tracking deposits, withdrawals, investment balances, building a picture of exactly what I was worth. They also found that the deposit on the Canmore facility, $65,000, non-refundable. Money Karen and Derek definitely didn't have. Turns out Derek's real estate business was in trouble. Commercial market had tanked. He hadn't closed a deal in 8 months. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage. Credit cards maxed out. My house, my pension, my investments, that was their bailout plan. I updated my will the week after the assault. Karen was removed entirely. No inheritance, no property, nothing. The grandchildren's trust remained intact. Sophie and James would receive their education funds at 25, managed by an independent trustee who had no connection to Karen or Derek. Michael, my son in Toronto, remained in the will. He called me after hearing about everything. Quiet, measured, shocked. Dad, I had no idea. I know, son. Karen kept it from everyone. Do you need me to come out there? No. I'm okay. I have good people around me. I love you, Dad. I love you too, Michael. That meant more than I could say. Christmas came and went. First one completely alone since Margaret died. I volunteered at the Mustard Seed, serving meals to homeless people. Kept myself busy, kept myself useful. January, February, March. The restraining order meant I couldn't see Sophie and James. That was the hardest part. They were innocent. They didn't understand why Grandpa suddenly wasn't at Sunday dinners anymore. Karen told them I was sick. A lie. One of many, I'm sure. In April, Sophie sent me a letter. God knows how she got my address without Karen knowing. Maybe a school project about family. Maybe she just remembered. Dear Grandpa, I miss you. James misses you too. Mom says you're not feeling well, but I hope you get better soon. I drew you a picture of the mountains because you always said you liked looking at them from your kitchen window. I love you. Sophie. The picture was beautiful. Crayons on construction paper, purple mountains, blue sky, a little house with smoke coming from the chimney. I cried for the first time since Margaret's funeral. But I didn't call Karen. I didn't break the restraining order. I didn't give her a way back in. Because that's what she wanted. The grandchildren were supposed to be the wedge, the emotional leverage, the soft spot she could exploit. Douglas told me that when Sophie turns 18, she can contact me herself. No restrictions. We can have a relationship on our own terms. I can explain everything. Show her the videos if necessary. Let her make her own judgment. That's 8 years away. I might not be here in 8 years. I'm 68. My father died at 72. My mother at 75. But I might be here. I might have 20 more years. 30. And however many years I have left, I'm going to live them on my terms. I sold the house in Mount Royal. Got $2.1 million for it. Moved into a condo downtown, 16th floor, view of the Bow River and the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Half the space, none of the maintenance. I hired a property manager for the condo. I hired a financial advisor I trust. I set up automatic everything. Arthur Fenton and I still meet for coffee every Tuesday. He's my closest friend now. He introduced me to his wife's book club. 11 retirees who meet twice a month to argue about novels and drink too much wine. I've read more books in the last year than in the previous decade. I took up fly fishing. Finally. Margaret always wanted me to try it. Said it would be good for my soul. She was right. There's something about standing in a cold Alberta river, waiting for a trout, that clears the mind completely. In June, I met a woman named Helen at the book club. She's 65, retired school principal, lost her husband to cancer 4 years ago. We started getting dinner after meetings, then dinner without meetings, then weekend trips to Banff. I don't know what it is. Maybe something, maybe nothing, but it feels good. It feels like possibility. My children were supposed to be my legacy. My connection to the future after I'm gone. Karen broke that. But Sophie and James are still out there, growing up, becoming people. And someday, when they're old enough to understand, I'll tell them the truth. Not to turn them against their mother, just so they know Grandpa didn't abandon you. Grandpa protected himself. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who hurt you the most. Last month, I got a letter from Karen, her handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away, unopened. But I didn't. Dad, I know you probably hate me. I understand why. What Derek did was unforgivable. What I did, letting it happen, planning it, I have no excuse. I was desperate and scared, and I made terrible choices. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for money or the house or any of that. I just want you to know that I'm sorry, truly sorry. And I hope someday, somehow, we can have some kind of relationship again. I miss you, Dad. The kids miss you. Whatever happens, please know that I love you. Karen. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer with Sophie's picture. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I'll ever respond. The wound is still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. But I didn't throw it away. Maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. What I know for certain is this. I'm 68 years old. I am mentally competent, financially secure, and physically healthy. I have friends, hobbies, interests, and maybe even something like romance on the horizon. I make my own decisions. I live my own life. And nobody, not my daughter, not her husband, not anyone, gets to take that away from me. Arthur told me something a few weeks ago over coffee. We were talking about the whole ordeal, how it had changed me, changed everything. Bill, he said, you know what the difference is between you and most of the people I saw in my courtroom? The ones who got exploited, who lost everything to their own children? What? You listened. You prepared. You didn't let love blind you to reality. I thought about that for a long time. Love is supposed to be unconditional. That's what we tell ourselves. Family is everything. Blood is thicker than water. Parents should sacrifice for their children. But what happens when your children see you not as a person, but as a resource? When they calculate your value not in memories shared, but in assets to be liquidated? What happens when the people you raised, fed, clothed, educated, and loved turn around and say, "You've served your purpose, now give us what's ours"? That's not love. That's entitlement. And I refuse to reward it. The cameras are still running in my new condo. Force of habit now. The will is updated, ironclad, reviewed quarterly. Douglas Chen has my complete trust, and Arthur Fenton has instructions about what to do if anything happens to me. I'm protected, fortified, ready, but more than that, I'm free. Free from the obligation to sacrifice my well-being for people who don't deserve it. Free from the guilt of saying no. Free from the manipulation, the pressure, the endless expectations. 70 is coming up in 18 months. I'm planning a trip. Scotland, Ireland, maybe Iceland. Places Margaret and I always talked about visiting, but never did. I'll go alone. Or maybe I'll ask Helen if she wants to come. We'll see. The mountains are still visible from my window. The Bow River still flows past downtown. Calgary is still home. And every morning I wake up in my own bed, in my own space, living my own life. Not Karen's version of my life. Not Derek's version. Mine. If you're watching this, and you recognize something, if your children are asking too many questions about your finances, if they're pushing you toward decisions that benefit them more than you, if you're feeling pressured and confused and guilty for wanting to stay independent, please listen to me. Document everything. Get a cognitive assessment. Find a lawyer you trust. Install cameras if you need to. Talk to someone objective, a friend, a professional, anyone who can see the situation clearly. And do not sign anything until you understand exactly what you're agreeing to and why. Your home is yours. Your money is yours. Your life is yours. You spent decades building it. You don't owe it to anyone, not even your own children. Protecting yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. Saying no is not cruelty. It's survival. And survival, at any age, is nothing to apologize for, maybe especially at this age.